Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Writing. It is the last Friday in the month of July. I can't believe we're here already. Um, and I'm super excited to share with you my progress from this week. Let's see what else is on our agenda for tonight. We'll talk about what I've done so far. We'll talk about my revision list. Also about how I'm using Claude.ai as part of my process. We'll talk about bonus content as well as if we have some time, we're also going to talk a little bit more about Letterpress, which is the platform that I'm using to host the scenes, which are actually, I'm calling them chapters on there, just, for consistency purposes. But so, people can see them as they're being written. So I hope everyone is having a good evening. Let me know that you're here. And I just realized I forgot to open one of the files. So I'm going to do that really quickly. So go ahead and let me know you're here. How was your week? Mine was really good, and then it wasn't. So today was not a good day. So let me find this missing file. And then we will dig in and look at everything. Master Tamari, hello. I needed to add my revision list, and I forgot to do that. So let me grab that too. And I'll add it to my window here. Okay, awesome. Hopefully, okay. Yep, looks like everything's all set. Fantastic. Okay, so well, first of all, I think I've made some changes to the document since you may have seen it last. Oh, and for some reason I can't see chat. Hold on. The Script Diva, hello, welcome. Oh yeah, Master Tamari, yeah, it's definitely gotten better since finish that work's over. Definitely, I'm with you right there. Okay, so I added a little announcement box here to the top. So again, if anyone wants to read the story as I'm drafting, the link is right here. I'm also working on that prompt library software. So if you want to sign up to be a beta user on that, I had already hoped to launch beta, but I came into some large problems that I had to basically recode. So, but yes, Byte-Sized Library, I will be focusing on that next month. And then I also started kind of like a writing vlog, just things that came up while I was writing. There are actually 2 videos so far, and you can actually look at them here. I have a folder on Loom where you can look at those. So, and yeah, let's go ahead and go to our page for today. You can see that I spent some time doing some character art. I was testing out software for book covers. One of the members in our community has gotten to the point where he needs to create a book cover, and I was trying to figure out what is the easiest way for us to create covers. To this point, I've been very happy with Ideogram. And also create covers, but also make sure that you don't necessarily look like either they're made with AI or, don't look terrible. Just Besha, hey. Oh, yes, I know. I can't wait for the library either. I was working today on setting up version tracking and having it where there is actually a change log. So people, if they are updating their prompts, they're able to make those changes and launch their changes to the community. And then the people that want to have the updated prompt can have the updated prompt, that kind of thing. So that was part of what I worked on today. But anyways, so back to cover art. So I was working on that this week. Tested out a couple different programs. One that I have fallen in love with is actually called loveart.ai, and they actually launched this week um, out of beta. But and if you are actually in the Byte-Sized Booksmith community, then you're actually able to see the prompt that I used to create these 3 images. So, am I a web developer? No, I am not. I'm actually using a lovable.ai, or sorry, lovable.dev, which is basically no code. And yeah, it's amazing. I have done things that I never thought were possible, and I'm having a blast. So, probably taking a little bit too much time away from writing, but it is good fun. And I have got a couple other people. Yeah, lovable. It's without the e. Let me type it in. .dev. There you go. But it is super duper fun. It's also excruciating when things don't go your way. But so, anyways, I actually like the original cover better, but I thought this was really kind of cool. And then I also went into Midjourney. Apparently, there is a Midjourney prompt for Novel Crafter. It's actually in Novel Crafter's list of prompts. I found it. So these are actually prompts that I created using that Novel Crafter prompt for Midjourney. And so I just wanted to test it and see how it came out. If you're interested in that, I can go find it. But all I did was search for Midjourney in that folder, and I found it. So, okay. What did I do the original in? Oh, yes, 100%. So that was actually a combination of, I would do some of it in ChatGPT using the 4.0 models version of their image, generative AI image generator. And then I would go over to Ideogram. And so I was kind of bouncing it back and forth. And that seemed to be because I could get close to what I wanted on one, and then I could send it over to the other one and then ask it to basically tell me like what the prompt should be. And it works really good. The last thing I had to do, I actually had to take it into Canva to get the name at the bottom like I wanted. So then I was able to take it back into Ideogram, and then it gave me what I wanted because it was trying to do something weird with the name. And I was like, no, let's not do that. So yeah, that was a collaborative process between ChatGPT, Ideogram, and Canva, and me. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and we will take a look at our book file here. So we have 6 chapters that are drafted. I say chapters, I mean scenes. I don't mean to confuse you. And actually, it looks like I forgot to summarize this one. So let me go ahead and do that now. Oh, Affinity Pro. Absolutely. I have Photoshop. I have all of those things. I just for what I was trying to do, I didn't want to load up Photoshop. It just made it so much easier to throw it in Canva. Okay, so 6 scenes are written. Also, I wrote a extra one. This is actually chapter 4 because chapter 4 is actually when Charlie meets Kingston for the first time. So what I decided to do was do an alternate POV so we could see Kingston's point of view when he was meeting Charlie. So I thought that would be a lot of fun. And it actually brings up, the idea of what can you do as far as bonus content and thinking about those sort of things while you're actually drafting and writing. So let me go. The next thing on our agenda is actually to talk about my revision list, because through my revision list, I will give you kind of a overview of how the entire week went, because a lot of stuff happened. Let me go ahead and make this, make this a little bigger. Here we go. Okay, so over here on notes, first thing is I completely scrapped scene 1. It wasn't working for me, even adding in a plant for her to talk to, and his name was Spike. It was throwback to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But um, yeah, scene 1 just wasn't working. I was starting in the wrong place. And so we scrapped scene 1. Scene 2 became scene 1. So the story now starts when Charlie is walking into the diner to talk to Rivera. So that's not where we're starting. I ran into another problem. So I had one codex entry for the warehouse. The warehouse where Charlie was turned into a vampire was the same warehouse where Dylan, who is part of our why is that? Okay. I was trying to, my notes are open and I just messed that up. Oh well. So Dylan is actually one of the characters from our B story, which, if you recall, our B story is the self-contained mystery that is solved actually in the book itself. And so he is the one who gets killed. And so that's part of their first investigation as a team, is finding out who killed Dylan. And so I kept having Dylan show up in the first couple scenes. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Well, apparently I only had one codex entry for the warehouse. And so it kept putting poor Dylan dead in my warehouse. And I was getting really frustrated about it. So what I ended up doing was I went ahead and created 2 separate crime scenes. And actually, give me 1 second. Oh, there we are. We come down here to my crime scenes. I now have a warehouse A, and I also have a warehouse C. So these 2 warehouses are actually very close to each other. And so warehouse A is actually where Charlie's transformation site is. And now warehouse C is Dylan's murder site. So by taking those 2 and splitting them apart, made my life so much better. And so I didn't have to keep living through poor Dylan's murder. Okay. When we got to scene number 4, I had a transition from Charlie Human, which is the name that I assigned to, here we are, Charlie Craig Human. And it also, before this, the name Charlie and Charlie Craig were both listed as aliases. I removed Charlie and Charlie Craig from this when she became the vampire or hybrid. And so now Charlie and Charlie Craig show up as her hybrid self. So that was something that I did on purpose, because I want to make sure it's pulling the right version of Charlie whenever I am pulling in codex entries. So there we go. By chapter 6, I was pulling out my hair because the prose was coming out absolutely crap. Let me be 100% honest with you. The prose was crap. I was rewriting the entire thing and very frustrated. So the initial prose style guide that I had was actually written by the AI with no input on what my writing style is. So what I ended up doing, I used the Prose Stylist GPT, which right here. So with the Prose Stylist GPT, I was able to put in a couple of the scenes from the story and have it generate for me a new prose style guide based on the actual draft. So when I did go in and write or I should say draft, uh, scene 6, it was better. It wasn't great, but it was better. And then I also did a test to see if using a sample scene um, actually made the prose better or if it made it worse. So again, I used the same scene, scene 6, and came into my snippets and I had a sample chapter. So this was actually scene 1, I believe. Yep, scene 1. Um, and then coming here to my prompts, and this was provided last week. My enhanced AI Buster prose prompt actually uses both the avoid, which is the AIism words, and it also uses a sample chapter. So I went ahead and used the enhanced AI Buster prose prompt with Claude 4. Now, I had planned to use Claude 3.7, but Claude 4 was being pretty good for me. I mean, you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I've actually been using Claude 4 a lot more than I had planned. But I used it with the enhanced AI Buster prose prompt. The prose was much better than it was before. However, the thing I was running into is that it had so much internal monologue. I wanted to beat myself against the table. So I had to strip out all of that. I couldn't leave it there. So, and the last thing I did, which I don't think I put on the list, I actually revised my scene list. So I went into my scene list. Besides changing scene 1 was now, or sorry, scene 2 was now scene 1. I also went in and took the stuff that I had already written and updated the scene information for those scenes that had already been written. So I use my scene list a lot in generating scene briefs for future prose. So for me, it was very important to make sure that I kept updating my scene list. So I'll probably do it again here pretty soon. But and not only did I update it, I went ahead, I put the date of my last update, and in my snippets, I also put an old copy of my scene list just so I had it, so I didn't lose it. Because you never know when you're going to need something that was in an old version of something. Normally, I would stick it in my Notion and then it would be lost forever. But since we have this really cool ability to open snippets as, a huge page, why the heck not? Okay. Back to my revision list. So that's it for really big things. As for the other stuff, I was actually able to do most of the research and revision as I was building the scenes. So the only thing I have left to do is I actually need to revise my bonus POV for Kingston. And then I also need to ensure that the dialogue, because I actually had to add some extra dialogue in there to make it make a little bit more sense, to my original scene 4. So that's where we are on revision. And I did have to learn some things I didn't think I was going to have to learn, such as how vampires are made. So I thought I could get away with being, not specific. And well, I learned that the hard way. So yes, now I know how vampires are made. And I had stupid questions like, in chapter 5, did Charlie tell Kingston her name? In chapter 4, no. Charlie didn't tell Kingston what her name was. He told her what his name was, but she never told him what his name was. So that actually ended up coming out as part of the scene where we have the people coming to pick up Charlie to take her to the Vampire Corporation. So they're like, you didn't ask her name? Like, it was pretty funny. Well, at least it was for me. So hey, Christina, nice to see you. Okay. Any questions before I transition? I want to talk a little bit more about How I'm using Claude. We'll talk a little bit more about bonus content. And then depending on how much time we have, we will dig into later press. And no, I haven't gotten the video done yet for the walkthrough on the codex, either for Return to Sender or for the whole series, the series Bible. Hey there, Alicia. Nice to see you. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to ask your questions, and I will pop over here to Claude and we will take a look at how I'm actually using it. Okay. Here we are in a Claude project. You may wonder why I'm using Claude. Well, first of all, I love Claude projects. I actually prefer the Claude projects to the ones in ChatGPT. And you guys know how much I love ChatGPT. I'm always creating GPTs and stuff like that. But as far as writing goes, Claude is where I do that if I'm not doing it in Novel Crafter. So let me show you really quick. As far as the project setup is, here are the instructions. So I actually have my urban fantasy mystery developmental editor here. So it's giving it instructions on how to act and giving it a persona. And then I actually have my whole codex here in my project knowledge. Why not Novel Crafter with open matter? I will tell you here in a second. And I do both. And I'll explain why here in a moment. So this is my entire codex right here. It doesn't look pretty, but it's the HTML file. Now, anytime you have a codex entry that has custom details, the custom details are not actually in the codex HTML file. So I actually had to go in and take all of the markdown files for all of my characters where I had these custom details, and I had to add them as well separately. Okay, so why am I using this instead of using just Novel Crafter? Well, because I can access my entire codex without having to pay for it, because I'm already paying for it. So yes, I 100% do a lot of the work in Novel Crafter. I do the drafting in Novel Crafter. But where does that codex HTML project file come from? Let me show you. And actually, if you look at here, you come down to the updated codex, you can actually download this file that I'm about to show you how to get to. And then when you open this file, that is where the codex.html file comes from. But here, I come to the gear. Oops, not gear. Go to the codex. Then I go to the gear. And I come here to export all entries. And then when I export it, then I'll be able to see the codex.html. And then in the individual folders is where those markdown files will be. And that's just the easiest way to get your codex into Claude projects. So as far as chats go, yes, I am able to chat with a couple different codex entries. Whereas when I'm in Claude, I'm putting the entire book file that I have so far. So I'll export the entire book as an MD, which is a markdown file, and ask it questions about it. I can download the entire book file and as part of my planning process. So whereas I would be worried about how much it's going to cost me if I ran it in Novel Crafter, over here in Claude, I'm able to do it without having to feel as nervous about, okay, I've got $8 left on the open router. Am I going to be able to make it? AI costs money, peeps. Okay. That's a nifty shortcut. Thank you. Yep. Yep. Export 100%. And let me show you really quick, Mr. Fuzzy Otter or Mrs. Fuzzy Otter or they Fuzzy Otter. Come here to export and Claude over ChatGPT. Yes. For projects. Definitely for projects. Okay. So if I'm writing a scene, I can come down here. I don't want the bonus content. I'm going to come over here and go to Markdown. I can uncheck these two and then just export like that. And then I have anything that I've written so far, and I can just put that into Claude and I can ask it questions. Um, you know, that specifically that question about, or here, let me show you something. Here we go. Here, I put the entire book in. And I said, in scene 4, does Kingston tell the Vampire Corporation Charlie's name? What did they know? And so it was able to tell me, okay, this is what Kingston tells them. This is what they know. And here's what they don't know. So I was able to literally put the entire book in there so far. Granted, it's only like 5,000 words, something like that. But once you get further along, it's going to be a big deal. So, okay. I feel like I lost okay, we'll come here to scene 6. And I will show you. There's kind of you said projects versus writing. Can you clarify that, please, Scriptiva? Okay. So let me show you. And this is actually, all of this is in your, here we go. Claude prompts down here. So you guys have this as well already. If you want to use this in Novel Crafter, it absolutely works as well. So if you want to use Gemini, absolutely works too. Yes, I said Claude for projects. I have used projects in ChatGPT, and I just don't mesh with them as well, which is weird because I love ChatGPT, but I love my Claude for some things too. There's just some things that are ChatGPT. There's just some things I do in Claude, and I pay for both. So I know not everyone can. Okay, so where was I? I was in scene 6, and I had to actually remember to go back in and rename these because I kept getting confused as to what was what. But okay, so I like to also remind it that Charlie is dead and is now Charlie Hybrid. So I'll give it the scene list. I'll give it the previous prose. And then I will ask it to give me an idea of what should happen in scene whatever. So also tell it to look at the scenes around it to ensure that we're on track and that we're not skipping ahead. So I don't want it to rush to do the next chapter if we're going to cover something in the next chapter, because it does that. So it told me what it thought should happen in the scene. And I told it, yes, I 100% get OSHA vibes. And I feel like a government auditor is going to come down the hall and interrupt at any moment. So yes. And, I talked about stages of grief. Also put in here about, she's not fully a vampire. So she's actually a hybrid because she's actually parahuman, not really human. We also need to address her sire bond, which is something that we don't actually do in that scene. And it's something that I can address a little bit later. So I'm not really that worried about it. And also we didn't really address whether or not they knew who her sire was. So, it actually ended up coming out pretty good without that extra information. So, but I figured out some stuff. We talked about the stages of grief because, she's going from being alive to a vampire. And then I had it create me basically a scene brief. Okay. In this scene brief, I came at the bottom, I'm saying, where's the location? What is the date? How long has it been since the last scene? I even put in the weather. So in this one, it really wasn't as important, but in the ones previous to this, she was outside. So it was more important to know what the weather was. I also put the phase of the moon because I don't know. Maybe I thought I was dealing with werewolves that time. Um, I also put, time of day is early morning. It's dark outside. And it is about 4:30 a.m. So from here, it gave me a scene brief. And I actually decided it needed to start before Vance walked into the room. So Vance is her um, HR guy, for lack of a better term, from the Vampire Corporation. So he's going to be with her and help her to deal with, the fact that she's dead. And so her death paperwork kind of becomes a big deal in this scene. And then he also is going to let her know that she's going to be going to work for the DLO, or the Dead Letter Office. So it went ahead and it updated my scene brief again. Then I went back to Novel Crafter. Here we go. Now in Novel Crafter, I pasted in what it gave me from Claude. I said, how does this look for scene 6? Any updates? It has the whole codex as well. And in this case, I actually used Gemini 2.5. So before I was in Claude, now I'm over in Gemini. And so it actually rewrote it for me and gave it some additional context that I didn't have before. Scroll. And then it gave me the step-by-step instructions, which are the scene beats, to write the prose. And they were pretty good. So I went ahead and told it to rewrite the beats and to remember to include transitions. It will need to be more than 10, but no more than 12 beats. I found that if I have more than 12 beats, it just becomes so long that it is unwieldy. And I've been writing about 3 beats at a time. And then also I added this information that I hadn't added before. I also tell it to add as much detail as needed for the LLM to assist in writing the prose, because it's going to be basically helping me draft. And then I also include, because it kept trying to do like head hopping, and it was driving me nuts. The scene is from Charlie's first person POV. And sure, we're not head hopping. Charlie should only know what she observes or overhears, never knowing what another character is thinking unless they tell her. So it kept trying to say, like, oh, well, Kingston thinks this. No, I don't know what Kingston's thinking. Nobody knows what Kingston's thinking. So this ended up working out really well for me. So I'm pretty happy with changing this out. So then it went ahead and give me my revised beats. So from this point, I went over into my snippets. Previous projects, I've always taken this over into Notion and just had a document in Notion where I kept track of all of my scene briefs. But now, with this really nice, I'm able to pin it. So now I just put it in here and it's perfect. And then, so while I'm writing, I can actually just grab my beats and then put them in the box and then just keep going like that. So, now, once I have finished writing the scene, we are actually going to go back to Claude. So here we have, and it's also in our Claude prompts as well. If you come down to this bottom part, after you've written the prose, you can use the following prompts in the same chat. So we're in the same chat that we started with. It already knows what's supposed to happen in the scene. So if you come back here, so here is the updated scene brief. And so that is actually all of the stuff that was in the writing brief. I don't know why I called it a writing brief, but it was a scene brief. And then I copy and paste in the prose that was generated as well. So the draft of the prose. And then I tell it to please review and let's go over the problem areas. If I know that there's something that's wrong, I will tell it ahead of time. I'll say, Charlie has only heard of DLO once in the van in the previous scene. So she has no idea anything about it. Because when it drafted talking about, oh, well, she knows that it's a place where people's dreams go to die or something like that. Like, she doesn't even know what the DLO is. DLO is Dead Letter Office, for those who are new. I've been talking about it for like 4 months, so I assume sometimes. It also forgot about my request for action tags instead of dialogue tags. So it, like, in the middle, just like converted over to dialogue tags, and I hate that. It drives me nuts. So it went through and it noticed some things. I was like, yes, I agree with everything. Please give me an edited version of the scene that incorporates these changes in an artifact. And so it redrafted the scene for me with the changes. And then it tells me what it changed. And then I told it, I don't like it repeating the big words, as part of her inner monologue. It was annoying. It was driving me nuts. And so I had it revised, and then I went off and I edited. I know I said that I wasn't going to edit, but I edited. I'm not going to say that I edited a lot. I really tried to stick as close to the draft prose as possible as to not waste time. But I definitely decided that you it was in my best interest to go ahead and have better prose. So I did it. And one of the biggest reasons to have the better prose is because this plan area has the summarized scene information. So we come here and we summarize the scene. The better your scene summary, because the scene summary is what is the story so far. The story so far is a very big part of, what you're writing next. So having this information be good, having it be right, means that later chapters are better, is the only way I can say it. So yeah, it was important to me to have the story so far be much better. And wow, I didn't realize it was 10,000 words. Wow. Okay. I undershot that by like a lot. So Script Diva, what is a project? Okay. So if we are in Claude, a Claude project is basically what this whole section is. So it has project knowledge, which is my codex. My codex is added to the project, as well as instructions. So my instructions are my developmental editor. The same thing holds if you are in ChatGPT. You can have a project as well. If you are, I'm not sure if it's available to free members, but I have a plus membership with them, and I'm able to have projects. And you're able to have knowledge, and you're able to assign it a specific, prompt or persona or something like that as well. So I will open the floor for questions. Okay. So let's talk about bonus content. And remember, the Claude prompts are all right here. So, bonus content ideas. So, besides really cool images and character art that you can create, there are a lot of opportunities for this while you are writing. So, like I said, I created an alternate POV of one of the chapters because it makes sense. He's going to be a large part of the series. Well, he would be a large part of the series if I was writing the entire series, but this is just an example. um, and sometimes I forget that. I'm like, I get really, like really into it, and I like forget, like, Angie, you're not publishing this thing. Like, relax. Um, but here are some ideas for things that you can give your readers, and you can use to attract new readers while you are writing the story, before you start writing the story, and while you're promoting it later on. So we have some comments. Oh, okay. Scriptiva asked if she could see what the projects look like in ChatGPT. Yeah, I can probably do that in another venue. Fuzzy Otter, question about Claude. Is it as agreeable as ChatGPT? This is my biggest gripe with ChatGPT when lore building. So, what do you mean by agreeable? Because ChatGPT is much more logical. Claude is more creative. And yes, Alicia, bonuses are cool. I did a lot of world building actually for this project in Claude. So it was actually in a different project. It wasn't in this project because this one didn't exist yet, because I didn't have the world yet. Um, uh, like I said, there's just some things that I like better in ChatGPT. Very basic frameworks. I create prompts. Um, if I want to know something, that has to do with my market, if I want to know something that has to do with my ideal reader, 100% I'm going to use ChatGPT on that. If I'm going to write a prompt that I may want to use in Claude, I'm going to write that in ChatGPT. However, when I'm doing the more creative tasks, I tend to go towards Claude. I've actually been using as well Gemini for kind of more like outlining tasks. I actually used it to write the draft. To work on the scene brief and the scene beats. I actually used Gemini for that. It works very well with the framework, the novel clock, which is something that. Sorry, Scriptiva. Then when are you using Novel Crafter? I'm writing actually in Novel Crafter. So all of this was written in Novel Crafter. Then I edit it and then put it back in here. And I actually edit in here too, in Novel Crafter. So I use both, and I kind of bounce back and forth between the two. I usually have at least 2 windows open when I'm drafting, sometimes 3. Just depends on what it is. I will typically use the same process over and over and over. So I'll open up a old version of whatever I did last. So all the pre-work, the setup, Claude and chat, and then back to Novel Crafter. I don't really use ChatGPT, but I'll use chat here in Novel Crafter, and then Claude. Yeah, I don't really get into. I'll use ChatGPT before the process starts, maybe after the process, for like figuring out my keywords, figuring out some like marketing content, that kind of thing. I'll use ChatGPT for, but not for writing, and not usually for anything with regard to um, like scene briefs and stuff like that. The only time, there is one other time I do it. I use it for my scene summaries. What LLM for the writing process in Novel Crafter? I've been using Claude 4 for my writing process this time around. Normally I use 3.7, but 4 was just working better for me this time. I don't know what it was about. ChatGPT basically says anything you come up with is fantastic, excellent, and never challenges you on stupid ideas. Oh, Gemini tells you it doesn't make sense. That's funny. I actually have a coach built into my chat GPT, so sometimes she tells me I'm doing stuff that's stupid. So maybe it's just the way I have it set up. Okay, but let's go ahead. Let's get back to the bonus content ideas. So this is stuff that you can post on social media. This is stuff that you can use with your newsletter list. This is stuff that you can share in writing or reader communities and stuff like that. So, and it just depends on how creative you want to be, how much time you want to spend. Oops. So, a supernatural guide, species profiles, corporate org chart, uh, some corporate memos, maybe from the Vampire Corporation, character portraits, meeting minutes. You could even, if you want to play with something like Lovable, you could create like a quiz to see where you would be placed in the Vampire Corporation, or maybe even have you fill out a job application for the Dead Letter Office. You can use deleted scenes, alternate POV, like I did with Kingston. Playlist is a really big option. I see those quite often, actually, at the beginning of a book. They'll have the playlist for the book. Recipe collections. You can either do it with the blood box or the coffee, since our Manticore loves coffee. As well as prequel stories, stuff about some of the side characters, and maybe some old cases from the DLO. So those were some ideas that it came up with for bonus content. And I actually asked this in Claude. Claude came up with that, but Claude had access to my entire codex when I did that. So looks like we have a couple more questions. Why do I use Novel Crafter with Claude to write? You already have Claude. I like the drafting style using Novel Crafter, and writing, beat by beat. Technically, I write 3 beats at a time, so it's beat by beat by beat by beat, because there's usually 12. A lot of times, if you write in Claude proper, and by Claude proper I mean here, you give it a scene brief and you ask it to draft. It's going to draft a very short scene. It'll be even shorter if you do it in ChatGPT, because ChatGPT and I don't get along, because it wants to take and strip out all the good stuff in what I have written. It wants to make it shorter, and it wants to be lazy. Okay. Alicia says, chat is great for editing. You have to prompt it well. That 100%. And also, if you don't want to have it completely just kill your writing, you have to tell it to do it a portion at a time. So you don't want to do it all at once. Trust me on this. I've lost so much time on that. Like, I put something in there that's like super long, and it's just like, here you go. And it's like 1,000 words, maybe. Chad, are you using just one scene per chapter? Yes, I am. And the reason for that is I don't like chapters. I write in scenes and I think in scenes. Um, if I were writing this for real, if I were publishing this, I should say, I would probably take chapters 2 and 3 because of the length, because they're a little on the short side, and I would put them in the same chapter just so that the chapters would be about the same length. I mean, that's really the only reason I would do that. So it's just to try to make the chapters the same length. Uh, but honestly, chapters don't really matter, at least in my head. The scene is where the LLM shines. It understands what a scene is. I can tell it what a scene is. I can't tell it what a chapter is. And my scenes are coming out, looks like 1800, 1200, 1000, and then 2200, 2143, and 1815. So they're a bit longer than I expected. But I don't right now think I can cut anything. I probably would, if I was going into a full revision, I'd definitely be able to probably be cutting stuff down. Okay. Well, it looks like we have about 9 minutes. I did want to start a scene, but I don't think we're going to have enough time. So I will do that after we're done here. Christina says, I write in chapters with 8 scenes per chapter. Okay. Why 8? Curious. Or how long are your chapters? I guess is my next question. Let's go take a look at Letterpress. And this is the back end. And I've published some other stuff here. And I actually unpublished it because I didn't want to draw attention to it. But, oh well, it's here. We'll go into Return to Sender. And this is what it looks like on the back end. The title goes here, but I actually have the chapter name up here. So I don't actually have a chapter title. I could come up with chapter titles. Sometimes I do, especially when it's like my supernatural comedy stuff. I'll usually have a chapter name, but I didn't for this project. And you can see over here, there is you can actually move stuff up and down. Actually, that's this one. Oh well, I hit the wrong thing. That's actually how you make it bigger. Whoop. You can actually, there is version control here as well. And then I can actually unpublish or publish. And you can actually export this entire thing. A lot of people actually write in Letterpress, so you can actually export it to something else. Or you can actually import an EPUB. So if you are working with a story that you've already written, you decide you want to sell it using Letterpress, you can actually import it here as well. But you can, as you can see, it's just a lot of text. There is nothing in the way of like images or anything. And I believe they're actually adding image support. I can come here to the settings. So I've got the title, the cover. I was able to add its own web URL, add the genre, a short description. And then you can pick, do you want it to be paid? Who do you want to be able to read it? You can upload your EPUB. And I actually have custom chapter numbering. Can we do a scene? Unfortunately not. Not today. I'm exhausted. I worked all day. And I wrote all week. I did, if you look at the last video, if you look at the one from last week, I did write a scene or I think most of the scene, showing at least the novel crafter half the process. Okay, Christina says, my chapters are about 5,000 words long. And I just like 8. Okay, that's cool. And then Chad said, if you're not worried about the money, is it easier to do the revision process in Novel Crafter chat, or are there other benefits to using Claude? If you're not worried about the money, I mean, it's just whichever platform is more comfortable for you. I mean, I'm not going to be doing, after this, I'm not going to be doing very much revision in Claude.ai. I would probably go into AutoCrit and work over there, and use Novel Crafter at that point. And especially since I have added a whole ton new bunch of text replacement prompts. So I actually can go into the actual text and use my prompts that I have created. So such as unfluff, which actually, I love this prompt, streamlines the prose and kind of takes out a lot of that AI fluff, like, talking about, all the precision and all the other garbage. I was arguing with it. I don't want to use the word precision. I don't want to use the word corporate 300 times. Okay. Oh, thank you, Scriptiva. Yes, you could go ahead and go look at that. I did write in the last video. I probably am going to take next Friday off. I think it's time. It's been a few weeks. It's also the week before my son comes back from vacation. So I might take the night off. Just relax, harass my spouse. He needs it. Are there prompts available? Yes, they are. I'm glad you asked. So, and also I updated the generate scene brief prompt right here. I even added a little change log down here. I added support for additional context. So that wasn't in there before. So you can actually just grab this, copy it, come over to Novel Crafter, hit new, create from clipboard, and you'll get generate scene brief. So this one is here. It's only here because I just updated it. Now, if you go to last week, hold on, here we go. Last week, you guys got generate scene brief. So this is the one that got updated. Active scene beats from summary. This is the urban fantasy mystery one. So this is the dev editor. AI Buster Prose, enhanced AI Buster Prose. The difference between the two is that this one does not use sample chapter. Enhanced does use sample chapter. And then I also gave you my longer scene summary, which is what I use when I am doing my scene summary. So those are all there, but that's not all. There is also, if you come down on the page, there's also a bunch of other prompts here, including these text replacement prompts that I had just created. There are some adult ones, some not safe for work ones. You'll actually find those. Those are actually in the Novel Crafter community. So hang on, let me remember the name of the spot where they're in. I didn't want to put the not safe for work ones over here. And second, those are in prompt share. So if you go into prompt share, you can find the not safe for work ones. Also AI Toolbox, which eventually is going to become the new and improved AI prompt library. So all of those are going into the prompt library. Okay, I missed a couple comments. Okay, so, oh, I answered your question already, Chad. Oh, absolutely, Scriptiva, and it's nice to meet you. This is the first time I've seen you on one of these. Feel free to leave me a comment and ask any questions. You can also ask me questions on the Novel Crafter Discord. I will answer. You just have to make sure you tag me, or my own Byte Writers Guild Discord as well. Or if you're in the AI Alliance school community, you can also ask questions there too. Okay. Well, it's 8 o'clock. I'm exhausted. My throat's hurting. And I'm getting ready to go and get caught up on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, because that's like the only show I watch. And it's been like over a year since we got a new season. So I am super excited to get caught back up. And I will let you guys know for sure if I'm taking Friday the 1st off or not. Fuzzy Otter, comfy? Awesome. Thank you. You have a nice weekend as well. I will see you guys, if not next week, the following week. Have an amazing day and happy writing.